What is pesto? There are different parts of Italy that have their own types of pesto based on what grew in their region. But essentially, we can say that pesto is a green leaf, an oil, a type of cheese, and a type of tree nut. Here in the US, we tend to be most familiar with Southern Italian cooking because that's where most of the immigrants from Italy came from to the US. And so that's also the type of pesto that we know, Southern Italian. Their green leaf is basil, their oil is olive oil, their cheese is a Grana Padano or Parmigiano Reggiano, and their nut is pine nut. However, there are regions that use, instead of pine nuts, they tend to favor more cashews or even walnuts. There are some that use, in addition to the basil, they may also use even parsley. But these ingredients don't all cost the same. And so let's take a look at some of these most popular brands here in Publix, and we'll compare quality, price, and quantity. Not all of these are a good value. I would say that actually most of them are not worth your purchase. I would also note that the Rouse brand RAO is on sale. We're going to come back to that. Let's first look at the Maetta brand. Basil pesto, it says. The ingredients are extra virgin olive oil, great, fresh basil, Parmesan cheese, okay. It's just a generic Parmesan. Water, almonds, okay, almonds cost a little less than pine nuts. Then we have the sea salt, the fresh garlic. We do have pine nuts in there. All right, so overall, they engage some cost-cutting measures. 55.84 cents per ounce for this brand of Mezzetta, $3.49. Okay, I think that is a pretty good value. Let's take a look at the Barilla brand. Okay, they start with basil, sunflower oil. Darn, they're going with a really cheap oil rather than olive oil. Spinach. So they're using a much cheaper ingredient than basil to add green color and to add substance to this jar. Darn, that sucks. Garlic, Grana Padano. Okay, that's good. They used a decent cheese. Salt, cashews. Okay, so they do have cashews, but they're going with a cheaper nut, potato flakes. Potato flakes add nothing to this in terms of flavor or texture. It's just to fluff up the ingredients and make it look bigger. So this company is really cheaping out and using less quality ingredients or less traditional ingredients. Pecorino Romano cheese. Okay, that's nice. Lactic acid, yeast extract. The yeast extract is going to give it a little bit more flavor. And natural basil flavor. No pine nuts. There's no olive oil. This company has really cheaped out. And oh, by the way, the yeast extract is adds a little bit of like an earthier flavor, and they're kind of making up for the fact that they don't have. They probably cheaped out a lot on the cheese more, and the olive oil, which adds body and flavor, is not there. So, that's what the yeast extract does. Let's go back and look at the price on that. 61.38 cents per ounce. So this is more per ounce than the Mezzetta brand, which used higher quality ingredients. Barilla should be ashamed of themselves. And this is why we have to read labels. Okay, let's look at the Barilla brand, the Genovese style. Again, we start with sunflower oil. Shame. Basil. I think in the other one, basil was at least before the sunflower oil, so that's shame. Cashews. Okay, they tried to use a cheaper nut. This is 64 per ounce, 64 cents per ounce. Really, shame on Barilla. Okay, Flora. I have high hopes for the Flora brand. Let's see, what was that? 64, no, 49.90, so essentially 50 cents an ounce. All right, we're getting better on that. Sunflower seed oil, darn, that's not a good oil. Italian basil, 36%. Cashews, they're going with the cheaper nut. At least they have some extra virgin olive oil, but it's more sunflower than olive oil. Pecorino Romano cheese, okay. Pine nuts, at least we have some pine nuts in this bottle. Garlic, All right, and we don't have any cheapy fillers like the potato flakes. And all right, well, it's kind of feel meh about that Flora brand. Let's see the Gia Russa pasta alla Genovese style. Okay, basil at least is the first ingredient, but then they put sunflower oil. Darn, they cheaped out. Grated cheese. It just says grated cheese. We don't even know. It's not grana padano. It's not nothing special. We don't even know. Cashews, they used a cheaper nut. Again, we're seeing potato flakes to add body and substance because there's not much to this. And at least there is some pine nuts, but the pine nuts is so low on the ingredient list. You are only seeing it in the order in which the ingredients appear per amount. The only thing that had a percentage was the basil. So that Gia Russa is 95 cents per ounce. That's crazy. All right, this is my favorite brand which is commonly available in stores. This is the Alessi pesto. Note that they have a beautiful photo of a picture of the painting of the Tuscan hills. Don't get fooled by things like that. Don't get fooled by pretty labels. So the first ingredient is basil. Then we have extra virgin olive oil. Oh, this is a good sign. Imported Pecorino Romano cheese. We actually have pine nuts. There is no potato flake filler. There's no spinach in here. 82.57 cents per ounce. If all that you are concerned about is the quality, I would encourage you to get the Alessi brand. Because yes, while it is a little more expensive per ounce, you are getting the real deal as close as you can while you are in a Publix grocery store. All right, next we're going to take a look at the Berio, the Filippo Berio Classic Pesto. Now, know that this is a much larger size, is 6.7 ounces, which brings us to, wait, where was it? No, the other one was 82 cents per ounce, 44.78 cents. We'll say like 45 cents per ounce. So it's quite a big difference between the one I like the best, 83 cents, and this is like 43 cents. Okay, we start with Italian basil, 46%, sunflower oil. We don't love sunflower oil, that's a cheapy oil, but then at least next is extra virgin olive oil. So it's probably a mix of the two, probably a little heavier on the sunflower oil. We have cashew nuts. We do have potato flakes. So they are cheaping out here. But we do have Grana Padano cheese. That's a good cheese. Now, if you look at some of those other ingredients, I would say that if price is your most important consideration and you do need a larger jar, because this is 2 for $6 or you just buy 1 for $3, go for the Filippo Berio. However, don't just consider the price per ounce. You should also be considering, am I going to be able to use every bit of those ounces before this goes off, before I have to toss it? Now, I'm just buying this today for myself and for Eric. So we don't go through a lot of pesto. So if I buy this, there's a really good chance that if I buy a larger jar, that it will go off before I have time to use it. So in that case, the price per ounce doesn't really matter. So I'm just going to buy the brand that I like the best. So I'm going with the Alessi. So this is another example of shrinkflation. This is companies trying to cut costs by cutting the quality of the products inside of their prepackaged foods. You may not know that one of the biggest producers of pine nuts in the world previously was Afghanistan. But just because of the growing turbulence that has happened in Afghanistan over the past few years, the price of pine nuts has grown enormously because the farmers, the producers there, they just can't safely do their jobs anymore. They can't make their land profitable. And so pine nuts are getting harder and harder to source, and certainly harder to source ethically. That is to not enrich the Taliban or something like that. So in this case, I think it's perfectly acceptable to say, we will try other styles of pesto. Maybe, pine nuts is not, across Italy, is not the only kind of nut that is used in pesto. Certainly, like we said, cashews. I've definitely seen walnuts, I believe, in like more northerly regions. So while that is okay, I would say I'm going to get these puff pastry sheets because I'm going to roll them out with that basil. I'll show you another video of how I use this. normally I like to buy these puff pastry sheets when they're 2 for 1, buy one, get one, or something like that. But do not buy the Pepperidge Farm, only buy the Publix Greenwise or Trader Joe's, because we want puff pastry that is made with butter and not hydrogenated olive oil. I do make my own puff pastry. It's tedious and time consuming, doesn't require a particular amount of skill. It's just time consuming, and you don't really get a product that is like so superior in comparison. So I'd rather just, and you also don't really save a ton of money by making it yourself. So I just prefer to buy it when I can. I hope that this will encourage you to look at the labels next time you're buying pesto in the store. One thing that I did not do on this visit to the grocery store is go to the fresh refrigerated pasta section. And there you can find truly fresh pesto. And I would say that does tend to cost a little bit more. You're going to pay more per ounce, but that is going to be the best pesto that you can buy in the grocery store. Now, if you want to spend the time and money to make your own pesto, I would say this is one of the cases where, unlike the puff pastry, yes, you will get a significantly more tasty product, a more superior product if you make it yourself. It is going to cost you more, particularly if you do not grow your own basil in your home garden. I do not. Check those labels anytime that you're comparing prices. As we see, price does not indicate quality. Barilla has the absolute gall to charge more than the Maetta brand that is superior to their product. Shrinkflation on the rise. Higher prices, less material within those packages, and then the inner materials are of less quality. This is the new world that we have to face. We have to read those labels.